Huffington Post had, one of those headlines that I saw today, like, "Oh no, all the wealth the middle class accumulated after 1940 is gone." What? Um, and it's offered as more proof that the middle class is dying. The article says that the middle class share of American wealth has been shrinking for the better part of 3 decades and recently fell to its lowest level since 1940. That's according to a new study by economists, not by Huffington Post. They're just reporting it, but by economists, University of California, Berkeley, and London School of Economics. Uh, in other words, remember the surge of the middle class after World War II. And it's understandable. We were the only country that still had, of any manufacturing capacity, that still had that manufacturing capacity. The rest of the world had been utterly and absolutely destroyed. But after World War II, and there was a worldwide demand and a demand here for consumer goods, for manufactured products, for food. The farms were doing well, thank you. The United States, and the labor movement was strong. The United States, as a society, pretty much had, it was open field running. We could do anything we wanted to do. Now, we made some horrific, horrible, ugly, insane, massively stupid decisions after the end of World War II, where it concerns foreign policy. And we did the same here at home. But there was a brief shining moment when the middle class was born, actually. It was born, and it developed into this standard of living, as described by the economists, unequaled in the history of humankind. Now, it had its downside. We know that. We know that. And maybe we would have been better off had there been no surge of a middle class. Maybe we would have been better off if we just would have, at the end of World War II, if we just would have not gone on a building and a construction and saved the world binge and just kind of slowed down and kind of kept to a modified agrarian kind of lifestyle, small towns, farms, small businesses, but that's not what happened. The other thing happened. And as the other thing happened, it gave rise to this middle class that is now disappearing. Now, in this disappearing middle class, the middle class share of American wealth, lowest level since 1940, the economists refer to middle class, it's defined rather expansively as the bottom 90% of all Americans. That's how much has been lost. Wealth is the total of home equity, stock and bond holdings, pension plans, other assets, minus debt. As such, assets are mostly owned by mid to higher income households. It seems reasonable to use the bottom 90% as a proxy for the middle class. We don't have a middle class anymore. We really don't. We have people who are still living that so-called middle class lifestyle. But, I think about the millennial generation. We play a snarky PSA that I think is right on the money on this program, where the millennials are they're just saying, hey, you boomer generation, you really screwed it up, didn't you? But I think about the millennials and beyond. What are they going to consider to be a middle class? Or is that a term like a term in newspeak that is no longer operative? It's remember what the thrust in newspeak was to purify language. It was to get rid of adjectives and you had a word like good. Okay, it was either good or ungood. It was really good, it was plus good, or double plus good. But that's about it. And the whole idea in 1984, the purpose of newspeak was to reduce everything, every single concept, each individual concept, down to one word sentences. That way nobody could think, nobody could explore, nobody could conceptualize. So In an economic sense, isn't that where we're going? We're getting down to the point where there is the 1% and then there's everybody else. Makes it real simple. It keeps everything real simple. You're either in the 1% or you're in the rest of the pile. Another important factor in all this has been the incomes have stagnated for most Americans over the past few decades, past 30, 40 years, just absolutely. What is it we hear all the time? That the minimum wage right now in 1974 dollars is lower than it was when it was $1.25 an hour or something. Whatever those numbers are. I don't even pay attention anymore because it's too damn depressing. In fact, the middle class is not alone in suffering from shrinking wealth. The rest of the top 10% of Americans, below that 1/10 of 1%, have also suffered from falling household wealth over the past 4 decades. But, I just can't work up any sympathy for them. I just can't. We'll be right back.